Will he be playing with the Houston Astros? According to John Morosi, the Astros have other priorities they need to fill. We'll talk about that during this podcast and who could be the first base option for the Houston Astros. And then we'll go ahead and talk reports about why Jose Altuve has kind of stayed quiet about the whole scandal. And just to kind of tell you, it's to protect his teammates, and that's what type of guy he is. So we'll talk about this and more on this edition of the Locked On Astros podcast.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chancey.
We are Locked On Houston Astros, and we hope that you join us for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman. You can find me on Twitter at Eric Talk Stros. Find the show at Locked On Astros, your team every day. Brett, where can I find you at?
They can find me at H-Town Wheelhouse on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. They can find me at Stros411 on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Always positive, always Stros. And hey, guys, I'm going live right now on TikTok as we record this to give a different perspective of Locked On Astros. Took the headphones off, so if you're listening on TikTok, you'll be able to hear Eric as well. We're going to try this out. Happy Thanksgiving week, Eric.
Yeah, same to you. And I know my kids are at Disney World right now with my ex. So they're having a good time while I'm over here freezing. I've got my hoodie on inside my apartment, but heat's so expensive. But you know what's going to be expensive? Bringing back Justin Verlander. And we'll talk about that. I know a lot of people have been saying, well, Cody Bellinger can play first base. Why don't we bring him in? Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. But guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day. Whether it's on YouTube, go and keep on subscribing to us, and go ahead and listen to us on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Check out the Locked On Astros podcast. And we are thankful for you, our loyal listeners, the guys that tune in to us, whether we go at 9:30 at night or 9:30 a.m. in the morning. Thank you for listening to us every day and making us your first listen. So, Justin Verlander, he won the Cy Young, of course, last week. We already talked about that. But there was a report that he, I think it was Ken Rosenthal, said that he met with the Mets, a Zoom call or something to discuss potential future with Mets. And I think Morosi was saying it's all caveat on what happens with Jacob deGrom. If deGrom stays with the Mets, I don't see how they can really afford both people. But Morosi really feels that the Dodgers are the best fit. Buehler is going to be out for almost the entire season, and they really need another guy. I mean, as good as Kershaw is, he can't carry that team, and they have some other good pitchers, but they lost Tyler Anderson, so they have the resources to get it done. They saved $18 million on Cody Bellinger, and so they have the funds to go do that.
Yeah, they do. So when you're talking economics, okay, you're talking push and pull factors. I think the things that are pushing Justin Verlander to New York is obviously the headliner of him and Scherzer reuniting. I think the other push factor is the money that Cohen seems to have an endless amount of, right? It's almost like he has a money machine in his office building. He just prints and goes, oh, hey, you want to pay you $80 million? Here you go. And so, you know, the Mets have a treasure trove of options. You know, there's also been talk about, you know, Carlos Correa possibly going to the Mets and playing third next to Lindor, and how that would be the most dangerous left side in the major league. But I think the pull factors pulling Justin Verlander to LA are the fact that Kate Upton's family lives in LA. Ben Verlander, his brother, who he's really close to, lives in LA. And the Dodgers seem to have this endless pit of money as well. So I think, though, these two clubs are going to really have to weigh if they want to give him 2 or 3 years, because he really wants 3 years, Eric. And he's made no bones about it. I mean, this guy's going to get 40 plus million. And I was having a discussion with somebody yesterday I was having someone someone asked me, why would the Astros not pay Justin Verlander? And I said, because he's 40. He's not 38 like Scherzer was. And I think you and I have hit on that. Like Scherzer at 38 makes a little bit more sense than Justin Verlander at 40. And they said, well, he's not worth that much. And my response was, he is if someone pays it. And that's the difference in the market with baseball. It's like baseball cards, okay? If I have a $10,000 Mike Trout rookie, but there's not a single person on the planet that's willing to pay 10,000, and you're the only buyer and you only want to pay me $100, you know what? That card's not worth $10,000. It's worth 100. So the market's going to dictate this. And it would be scary if they had a three-headed monster of DeGrom, Scherzer, and Verlander, because that does seem like something like Cohen would do.
I don't think they could afford to have all three, honestly. And
True.
I
Oh, no,
think
I'm
the
just
reason,
saying he's the one guy that I think would do it if there was anyone in Major League Baseball could do it, right?
but would that get them anywhere in the playoffs? Because they're spending all that money on the rotation. What are you gonna do about the offense? I mean, Nimmo is a free agent, and they lost Dom Smith. I mean, not that that's a big deal, but so there's just a lot of different aspects to look at. Like, can you build a team if you're putting what
Yeah.
almost 40, so 120 million per year
In three
on
plays.
three players. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
that's
it would. Yeah,
almost the reaching the CBT. So I don't see the Mets doing that. I'm sorry. I
right.
don't think even Cone will do that. But going back to the Astros situation, the Astros would love to have Justin Verlander back. He means so much to this team. But if you look at it, they're six starters deep, and that's including Hunter Brown. That's not even including JP France, who could make his presence felt this year. So yes, they could use Verlander in this rotation. He could be the ace again. He comes in, but they don't. He's not the priority. The
Right.
offense last year was what struggled. The offense was at time anemic. The pitching carried the Astros. I mean, you had Alvarez, who was really good at sometimes. Then he went through a little cold spell. Altuve was pretty good throughout the year. Bregman's pretty good throughout the year. Pena was he went through a hot spell, then really got cold, then he got hot again. So the Astros need to improve offensively, and they can't do that if they throw 40 million at Justin Verlander. But something that Brandon and I talked about on Talking Stros last night was he doesn't think that Verlander will get a 3-year deal. He thinks that because of his age and coming off Tommy John and everything, teams are going to be very hesitant to give him 40 years, 3 years, 40
Three
million
is
plus,
right.
especially after what happened with Scherzer. Scherzer barely made it through the season. He did
That's
not pitch
true.
well in the playoffs. So the just looking at what happened to the last person that did it, it's just not a good look. And so, I mean, we saw a lot of the bad contracts kind of go away after Albert Pujols and Josh Hamilton back in the day. So
Wow.
I really think that people are being a little bit leery of giving somebody who's a 39-year-old a 3-year deal. What I could see is maybe a 2-year deal with a team option for the
I
third year.
think I think Verlander starts at the third year talking, and then he gets talked down to a 2-year with a third year, team option. I agree with that because like there's no way to predict what's going to happen, even after that, even after the first year. And you wonder, are clubs putting in a club? Is there like an opt out? A club once after a year if Justin Verlander isn't performing, or are there going to be markers that Justin Verlander has to hit
Yeah.
for the first year to make it to the second year? Things like that. So it's
Maybe
all
for
a
a third
game.
year. Maybe
Yeah.
there's markers in the first and second year. So if he
Okay.
has 200 innings and 200 innings, then it automatically triggers the third year.
Yeah, I mean, you could always do that, but you make an excellent point that the Houston Astros do not need another pitcher right now. Like it's hard for it's hard to fathom. Like you don't
Mhm.
need Justin Verlander. Like saying those words almost seems criminal to me because of what he's meant to this team. I was watching the 2017 replay, the World Series documentary on 2017, and oh my gosh, Justin Verlander was great during that playoff run. He actually had a great series. He actually had a great World Series start as well in there mixed in. But you know what? Look, I don't know where you are putting your money, but if you want to put your money where your mouth is and you want to bet on all things Houston Astros or heck, Houston Texans or even Houston Rockets getting the first overall picks in their draft, then go to betonline.net. This is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and out there, amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer and esports. We've got it all at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those at betonline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. And hey, as we're recording this, we are right before the first kick of the United States being in the World Cup since forever against Wales. If you want to go bet on Team USA, go do that. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. Bet online. It's where the game starts.
Alrighty, yeah. A lot of people will be betting on the Astros to go back to the World Series next year, especially Mattress Mac. He's doing the whole promotion again. But I think a lot of people are still betting on the Dodgers. And the Dodgers, especially if they get Verlander, I think they'll be favorites to go to win the World Series and win. But I think that I I think having Verlander on the Astros team would be a luxury, but at what cost? I mean, you really need to upgrade at first base. You really need to upgrade at other positions. Do we have a backup catcher right now? Is that Corey Lee? Or are you going to have
Yes.
Yainer Diaz be the backup catcher? So it's just like what
Yes.
there's so many different holes on Astros roster, but as is, it's still a great roster. Yuli Gurriel, I'm not going to bet that he's 100% coming back, but I think the odds are pretty good that they're going to find some agreement to get him back on a 1-year deal with a maybe team option for the second year, just because he means so much to his team. I see maybe incentive laden deal for maybe Michael Brantley, where his salary is based on how many games he plays or something like that. But I don't know if they will do that with somebody like Michael Brantley. But I
Well,
think first base is the big key. And I know that Anthony Rizzo's off the plate. He wanted to stay with the Yankees, but we kind of got to decide who's next. And Dom Smith, he was just non-tendered. He is not the answer. He is not the
no,
answer, folks.
his last at bat was a walk-off to beat the Braves in the final game of the regular season at Citi Field. So there's that. But no, look, here's the deal. Just to kind of address the Brantley thing, and then I'll slide over to first base. Michael Brantley, I don't even think he can throw or hit right now. So he's
Right.
not talking to anybody until he gets fully healthy. I think once he's fully healthy, I think you easily
Spring
make a
training.
deal with him
Yeah.
on a team
Yeah.
friendly contract. I think he's signed. Okay. Now, first
A
base.
Thanos deal, just like that.
There you go. Oh yeah, Thanos snap. So catcher, yes, you have two backup catchers in Corey Lee and Yainer Diaz. You're absolutely bringing back Maldonado. I don't see them bringing in Contreras just to DH. I just don't see them doing that.
I do.
First base, Yuli Gurriel, you absolutely have to keep him for at least one more year, and I think you give him incentives as well. I think you give him a certain number of at bats to reach, or maybe an OPS, or maybe batting average. Like you give him some sort of statistical, because we saw him bounce back in the playoffs. And if you look at his statistics, it seems like every other year he has a good year, then he has a down year. Maybe that was his down year. Maybe this year he picks it up. And when I say he picks it up, anything he does at the plate, Eric, could be a pickup for him because he was miserable at the plate during the season. It was his defensive glove that kept him on the field and team chemistry. And we can't talk about this enough. And all the people and all the stat heads and all the analytical people that want to break down and tear, like, I've never seen more people upset at a 106 win World Series championship team than our fan base because, oh, Jim Crane doesn't know what he's doing. Oh my gosh, Yuli Gurriel this and Martin Maldonado that. Well, you know what? You won a World Series with Martin Maldonado having a broken hand in one of the worst plate discipline bats of all time. One of the worst catchers to ever swing a bat. But you know what? Every time he hit a home run in 2022, the Astros won a game. So he did contribute. I think Yuli's here another year. I think they bring in someone like Abreu. And you also have Hensley who can play first. This kid is really good, Eric. He's 6'6". He can play first base. If you keep Aledmus Diaz, he can play a little bit of first base. I don't know what's going to happen to him, but the Astros have their options. Now, there is one option that people keep talking about, and I don't know if I like the idea of it. And we have to address the 800-pound gorilla in the room because we have it on the thumbnail for the show. It's Cody, I can't hit the broadside of a barn, Bellinger. That's right. Cody Bellinger? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Eric, I'm going to let you speak on this first because I have something to say to Astros fans who want Cody B on this H-Town team.
All right, I don't see it happening, guys. I mean, there's too much bad blood. If
Thank you.
you don't burn bridges in your business, and that's what Cody Bellinger did. I know he was upset about what happened after 2017, but for him to say what he said was just not right. And I mean, I know all Dodgers fans hate the Astros, and I know Dodgers players who felt cheated out of World Series. They felt that. I know Aaron Judge. I think that there's a part of him that thinks that Altuve took the MVP away from him because of what happened that season. And there's actually a good article from Ken Rosenthal last week on The Athletic, and I think it was Ken Rosenthal, but he actually said that Altuve was asked, "Well, if you didn't participate in the sign stealing thing, why didn't you come out and say I didn't do it?" And he said, "I'm not going to do that to my teammates. I'm not going to throw them under a bus," basically. And so that's just the type of guy he is. Yes, it's hurting his reputation, but no, Cody Bellinger is a guy that really burnt his bridge in Houston, and it would be like, honestly, it would be just like Carlos Correa going and play for the Dodgers. I mean, that would be so messed up. I mean, after everything that happened, like how could Dodgers fans root for Carlos Correa in that situation? And it just Bellinger, it just he put his foot in his mouth, and that took away one potential team that could possibly use him. And I think the Astros that are a team that could probably help motivate, get him back to where he needs to be. But last year he batted 210 with 19 home runs, 68 RBIs, but he had an OPS plus of 78. He's a below average player at this point of his career. And
Yeah, he
yes,
is.
he was MVP in 2019. He had 47 home runs, 115 RBIs, and he had a 167 OPS plus that year. Somebody could fix this guy, but it's not going to be the Houston Astros.
No, it's not going to be the Houston Astros. And just for those of y'all that are viewing us online, I have totally ignored the chat, so I apologize. I'm going to try to catch up to some of y'all's comments on here. Thank y'all for being a part of the show. And hey, thank you for making Locked On Astros your first listen every day. And for your second listen, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. So, Eric, I really think that a lot of Astros fans want to say, hey, Chas McCormick, he's your guy, right? He's a 20 home run guy. He's a plus defender. What he
I
gave
thought
you
you
in the
wanted to say
playoffs.
something about Bellinger.
Oh, you know what? You got me. You know what? I'm not as angry about it anymore because I just know that the Astros aren't going to sign him. But
Okay.
the people that are suggesting that Cody Bellinger come to the Astros, they are absolutely smacked out of their mind. There is no way this side of heaven that Cody Bellinger will ever don the orange and blue. Number one, he's not worthy. Number two, he can kick rocks. And number three, Cody Bellinger more than likely will get signed back to maybe a minor league deal with the Dodgers. No one's going to take that guy. He's
He would
he's
not
an
do a minor.
absolute
Oh, I
well.
did read that he does want a 1-year deal because he wants to rebuild his value.
Okay. Well, how about rebuild it like sacking groceries at Safeco or something? I'm just saying, like Cody Bellinger is a shell of himself. He's not the 20. Look, I've got no love for this guy at all. Zero. Neither Eric nor I would ever endorse that. Christian Walker is a name being mentioned a lot in a trade with the Diamondbacks, but I don't think, and I do see some center field talk. Like, Why are we talking about center field? Because Chas McCormick, I think, like earned the job. I think he's done plenty. And I'm not just talking about his imprint on the outfield after making the amazing, catch. I'm talking about all his plate appearances in the playoffs. And the last segment we're going to do this I'm going to share the three things I'm thankful for with the Houston Astros this year in 2022, and it might include one Chas McCormick. But this team definitely does have some needs. Eric, I think offensively, like you said, they need to improve the offense. One of the things I was watching that 2017 World Championship, and I was rewatching the World Series against the Dodgers, and runs were hard to come by in those first couple games. And they basically lived and died by the long ball that year.
Right.
George Springer, a big part of that, the 4 or 5 games where he hit a home run. And I was sitting there going, gosh, I really wish we had George Springer this year. Like, it would have been so electric if he was here. But they need someone to come in that's an impact back, or maybe the fact that the shift is banned is enough to drive freaking Kyle Tucker to a 350 average. I'm not even lying. Like Jordan Alvarez hitting north of 320. I mean, this banning of the shift is going to be huge for our hitters. And who knows, maybe Chas McCormick catches fire. Brantley comes back, and I think Brantley platoons with Jordan Alvarez. And then you get someone in there with Yuli that you don't have to pay an arm and a leg for. Could Christian Walker come in and platoon with Yuli? I don't have his stats in front of me, but doesn't he have some injury history as well?
I believe he does. I had him on fantasy baseball. He's also kind of a streaky hitter. So he
Yeah.
goes through really hot streaks and really cold streaks. So that's somebody we can talk about in a second. But I was looking at Chas McCormick's stats, and I'm kind of amazed how consistent he is. In both years, he had 47 runs scored. Both years, he had 12 doubles. Both years, he had 14 home runs. Both years, he had 4 stolen bases. He both years he had first year he struck out 104 times. Second year he had 106 strikeouts. He's batting around 250 both years. He has almost a similar on base percentage. Slugging percentage was a little higher his first year, but his OPS plus is 107 and 110. So he's above an average major league player. So yes, that is somebody who starts on most teams. And so I think Dusty Baker didn't give him a lot of starts, or there's a time period where he wasn't starting a lot. Everybody's like, why isn't Chas McCormick starting? But I
Right.
think after what he did in the playoffs, I think that what we're seeing now is this is his job, and it's going to take a heck of a spring training for Pedro Leon to take over.
Yeah. Pedro Leon, I really don't think we see him before June, Eric. And now, down in the Cuban Winter League, I think his first 4 at bats, he had 2 home runs. And
Mm-hmm.
I know Cuban Winter League pitching isn't major league pitching, but it's pitching nonetheless. Remember Jeremy
Practice.
Pena.
Yeah.
What Jeremy Pena credits his ability to hit in the season he had to his time at the Dominican League, the winter ball last year. He was on that team, I believe, with Robinson Cano, and there were other major league players down there. And that winter ball really helps. And Pedro Leon, all he needs is more confidence. I think he knows what kind of player he is. He just, for whatever reason, struck out nearly 40% of the time in Sugarland. But look, when he hit it, he can absolutely crush the ball. His arm is the highest rated arm in all of minor league baseball. Not even the top 10 major league outfield prospects come close next to him when it comes to throwing the ball. Look up Sugarland. Look up Pedro Leon throwing players out at home. And the dude's got an absolute cannon, Eric. So I think that because we have seen the platoon actually work out pretty well for us in these last few years, um, Susie says, seriously, what more does Chas need to do to earn the center field job? I don't think he needs to do anything else. I think if he gets the opportunity to start to begin the season, he needs to hold on to it, because whether you like it or not, Pedro Leon is on his way. Pedro Leon's going to make his way onto this roster at some point, Eric. It's just when he's ready. Now, Chas McCormick and Pedro Leon, going back and forth for center field, dude, give me that competition every day. That would be a
It's
good
going to make
competition.
Chaz better. Yeah.
It's right. I mean, he did that with Myers. They did that with Siri. I mean, and what has Chaz done? He stepped up to the challenge. I think Chaz just like he's on the roster, right? Yeah, he wants to play every day. But if he's next to someone like Pedro Leon, why wouldn't you want to play with that guy? Because eventually, look, he'll either get the starting role or he'll become a player that goes somewhere else like a Miles Straw and gets his due and gets paid. Because look at Miles Straw, Gold Glove winner now with the Cleveland Guardians.
Guys, I have some homework for you. Brett and I will discuss it on the next podcast, but I have some homework for you. Jake Myers, he was James Click guy. So, does how much of an opportunity does Jake Myers get now that Click is out of the picture? So don't say anything about it right now, Brett. Let's let the listeners kind of, y'all can tweet us at Eric Talk Stros, at H Town Wheelhouse, or at Locked On Astros. You can comment on the YouTube channel. We'll go ahead and look at some of those comments. I mean, I have some thoughts on it. I'm sure Brett has some comments on it, but that's something that we could do for the next show. And I think that, let me just say that I think that Myers was very thankful that James Click was in the front office, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, anytime you have
Yeah,
some
he bet
type
his
of
career.
competition, huh?
Sorry.
Yeah,
He bet his career on it, apparently. Apparently, Jim
yeah,
Crane's like, "You're willing to bet your career on Jake Myers?" Well,
yeah,
Click is gone.
yeah. I know. So definitely something to look at. So kind of summarize the day. Verlander, he's probably not going to come back to the Astros unless he's just not getting the offer that he wants from the Dodgers or the Mets. And I really don't see the Mets getting him unless DeGrom goes there. Then they're going to need him. So I think the Dodgers are the most likely location for Verlander. And Bellinger, we don't want him. You can
No.
stay wherever else, just stay out of Houston. You can go up to Arlington, play with the Oklahoma Rangers or something, and just go play with them. But otherwise, they need some AC up there. So when you strike out, go ahead and get
Dang.
the whiffs going. But go ahead.
No, I just look. Here's the deal. This team is poised to have another championship run. I mean, I think they are the favorite out of the American League. Even if Aaron Judge signs with
Right.
New York, even if everything else and everyone else stands pat, but it's going to be interesting to see who ends up on this opening day roster. Will that be Brantley? Who's going to be there? Who's not going to be there? You know, they got rid of No Flames James. Josh James is done in an Astros uniform, so he's not coming back. I think that experiment is over. But what I want to know is someone like Paredes going to make it onto the roster back in the bullpen? Is
How?
if there's an injury, is do what
Yeah.
now? I
I was
mean,
like, how is Paredes
how
going to
if
make it
there's
on?
an
It's
injury? I
deep.
mean, look, we've got a
Yeah.
stellar bullpen, but we used 22 plus relief pitchers in 2022. We used 9 different starters in 2022. So there's going to be plenty of room for a JP France, a Paredes. You remember, you got Peter Mashinsky, you got these guys. The questions we have to answer: who are the 4 spots that are open on the 40-man roster going to be manned by? And we'll talk about that this
5,
week. Oh, there's
because
5 now.
Josh James was,
Okay. Oh, you're
non-tendered.
right. Thank you. Okay, so 5. So we've got a 35-man roster now. One of the things I need y'all to be aware of this week, we've got Kenny Van Dorn coming on talking about prospects this week. We've got Coach Temper from Stetson University, who was the coach that discovered Jeremy Pena. He's going to talk to us about discovering Jeremy Pena and recruiting him. So he's going to be here this week. And just know that just because it's Thanksgiving week doesn't mean that you won't get a show. You'll get a show. It may be pre-recorded. We may premiere it, but we're here. We're your team every day. Thank y'all for hanging out with us. And I want to do we want to share? Can I share my 3 things I'm thankful for with the Astros, or you want to do that next?
Yeah, I'll do mine the next show. That way we can spread out.
Okay, so here's my 3 things that I'm thankful for the Houston Astros in 2022. Number 1, Dusty keeping Pena in the 2 hole. Dusty dying on that hill, keeping Pena in the 2 hole was a massive boost. Go look to playoff games, go look to regular season. He was a key factor. Number 2, Chas McCormick putting up clutch numbers in the box. That's right, Chas McCormick, the man we're talking about, the man of the hour, and his defense. His glove was phenomenal. And my 3rd thing that I'm thankful for with with the Houston Astros in 2022 is the guy that a lot of people thought should also have been co-MVP of the World Series, and that's one Ryan Presley. Not only does he come out to a Johnny Cash song, but the dude was absolute perfection in the playoffs. This guy earned his stripes. He is one of the most elite closers in all of baseball. I'm thankful for those three things with the Houston Astros in 2022, and I'm thankful for you guys and girls who tune into us every single day. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.
And don't forget that the Astros did tender a contract to Phil Maton, so we'll see Phil back on the mound in 2023. That's all we got for this edition of Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman. You can find me on Twitter at Eric Talk Stros. You can find Brett at H-Town Wheelhouse, and you can find the show at Locked On Astros. Your team every day.